And, every one and everything has an agenda. There's nothing that's neutral. There's not a person that you meet. There's not a book you read. There's not a podcast you listen to. There's not a song, a news station, or a movie that is neutral. Everything has an agenda. We have to start to think about taking responsibility to be the gatekeeper of saying, I'm not letting this influence me. I'm not letting this in. It's really important that I start to pay attention to who and what influences me. Welcome back to the 5-Star Life Show. I'm your host, Coach Seth, and I'm joined in studio, not with my co-host, Coach Mia. She's out of the studio today, but I'm joined with special guest. Actually, he's a senior archery expert, and he's the expert archery specialist for 5-Star Life, Coach Ray Kindle. Coach, welcome back.
Hey, Seth, how are you?
I am great. So, Ray, we've got a lot of history.
Yes, we do.
So Ray worked in the medical field for years and has always loved archery and hunting. And I remember being introduced to Ray, and we had, this 5-Star Life program, and we were doing these leadership days. At that point is before we acquired Summit, our incredible property.
That's correct.
And we were at Minoe, and we were looking for somebody who could help with archery. Got your name, were introduced to you, and you brought this team of people and just kind of invigorated our program with archery. It was amazing. And I got to learn how to shoot. It was so much fun. So, that was going back, it's got to be 15 years ago.
I think it has been that long.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
So you're now retired.
I am.
But retired with purpose.
Yes, I am.
And we're super grateful for that you've stayed involved and really increased your involvement with us.
Well, glad to be here.
So for the listening audience, if you just tuned in, really want to encourage you to go check out our website if you're not driving, 5starlife.org. We're on a mission to change the face of culture, of sports, and of education by changing and really targeting the mindset of kids. And you can learn so much more about what we do. Also, just a note, you can listen to this show anywhere podcasts are played. You can also now watch this on our YouTube channel at The 5-Star Life. Also, we've got a few people commenting and interacting. We love it, so keep that up. Thank you so much. Be sure, lastly, if you like the content, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an episode, and then hit that like button. That really helps the algorithms and really sends that out so we can get more traction and we get more people that want to help us change culture. So anyways, special guest Ray is on. Ray, talk to us a little bit about, when did you start to fall in love with archery?
Well, the first time I thought about doing that, it was really self-serving. I was a hunter, and I wanted to expand my hunting season. So what better way to do that than start bow hunting? And that was in 1974.
You've been hunting for a while, been shooting bow and arrow for a while.
Yes, I have.
So from where you started and kind of the introductory level to where you are now, explain where you were, how you got started, and where you are now.
Well, I wish I'd go back and talk to that guy that started out in 1974. I could teach him a thing or two. But primarily it was just to learn how to shoot a bow so that I could go hunting for deer, and that's what kicked it off, and that really held me for probably 30 years. And it wasn't until recently that I started getting into target archery, which is really order of magnitude, requires more concentration. Bow hunting is really hard, but target archery is probably the hardest thing there is to do. So,
okay. We know each other. We can talk sports a little bit. I played basketball, so I relate everything back to basketball. So, as a kid, you want to get the proper shooting mechanics, like a basketball form, your form, right?
Exactly.
In golf, it's helpful if you start with the right mechanics. Archery is the same thing or not necessarily?
Oh, absolutely. Archery is all about form. It's all about form. And every time you veer away from your standard practice and miss a part of your form, it's evident downrange, and you miss the mark.
So when you started with archery, you just were you self-taught, or do you have people that helped you?
I had one lesson. I had one lesson. I paid $5 for it.
It's like, I just want to hunt.
and back then, my goal was to be able to hit a paper plate at 20 yards every time. And now my goal is to hit a thumbnail-sized bullseye at 20 yards.
Wow. Wow, incredible. So, for our listening audience, for context, Ray is one of the very best archery trainers in the country. So we feel so blessed that he lives close to us and is engaged with Five Star, has been for many years, but literally just brilliant in archery. And so we have been in conversation with him. He's helped us start the program, but we wanted you to come on, Ray, because 2024, we're taking a little bit different approach. We've talked for years about this archery program, and we've ran it, but we're excited to go to the next level this year and not just have archery as a part of a rotation when we have kids on campus, but actually having separate archery programs and really working towards like an archery team where they're, competitively shooting. Talk about some of the differences between, what it would take for, if there's a parent out there or a kid listening or a grandparent that's like their kids are sitting on the couch watching TV. Maybe they're not involved in sports. Maybe they have time. Is this something that is kind of something anybody can pick up and start doing, or is this something you have to have some pre-knowledge of or some pre-skills for?
Well, how we start, typically on any given day out at Summit, we get 30 kids that show up. Some of them never touched a bow before. And by the third arrow, they actually look like they know what they're doing. By the ninth arrow, they're hitting arrows where they want them to go. And so to me, and I get them for that 1 hour only for the most part. And I've always wanted to assimilate a team and take it to the next level and teach them what joys are out there in this discipline.
Yeah, and so we're at a place as an organization where we're finally ready to offer some specific programs that we can set that up. So we have, I think it's called Accelerated Archery Program coming up.
It's a series of 8 or 9 sessions that we're going to take and develop a shot sequence, the 11-step process that USA Archery uses as their framework, and that's really the framework we've used all along. And I've always taught that. But it's hard, you get kids for 1 hour, nothing sticks in 1 hour,
right?
Except some basic fundamentals. But this will be drilling down into all the elements of just the equipment, different types of equipment, the compound bow versus a recurve bow, arrow maintenance, all the form from picking up the bow to the last step in the process, which is evaluation of what you just did. And so when I have a group of kids for that length of time, then I'm looking forward to seeing them develop and then be ready to take it to the next level, which is building a team.
Yeah, so the exciting thing for me is archery's been kind of like this exposure rotation where they are exposed to it at a high level, and they actually, because of your expertise, they find success really quick. Right?
Yes,
they're like, okay, I'm not horrible at this. And so there's so many kids that are like, I love this. We now have this new program that they can now be brought into. Now, do we provide the equipment, or do they have to bring their own equipment?
We have it all. We have Genesis bows and arrows to match. They're matched with that particular type of bow. And that's pretty much what we teach. With this course, however, I have a cadre of recurve bows as well. So we're going to teach recurve as well as Genesis. So it gives a student the opportunity to see what it might be like to shoot a recurve Olympic bow, and so what I would like to do is just have them ignite a spark within them that they may never know they have, and I see that all the time. I see kids come through, and there's always one or two that have this natural ability. Gosh, I wish I had it. Everything I have, I've had to work really hard for, but there's one or two that just shine, and I don't get them for any length of time after that. And so what I'd like to do is take them. Really, the only criteria is for a kid that wants to do it. I don't care what their skill level is. I can get them to where they need to go, and that's what I want to do.
I love it. What I love even more is the connection to USA Archery, and potentially kids could take this all the way to qualify for the Junior Olympics and beyond.
Sure. I mean, there's any number of paths to take, and there are like 3 or 4 different types of organizations that handle this. There's NASP, National Archery in Schools Program, which it's 4th grade up to 12th, but after that, kids really have nowhere to go beyond that. There is, but within USA Archery, there's Junior Olympic Division, which we can certainly do at Summit, and if a kid wants to go out on the path of Olympic archery, we can do that. And there's also another organization which I'm really looking at, which is S3DA, and that's Scholastic Three-Dimensional Archery. And that takes, any type of archery you can envision, from the English longbow all the way up to, to Olympic recurve, to bow hunter setup, to a world-class competitive archer, with compound sights and release aids and so forth, all the way to that level.
Wow!
And the beauty of it is that that there's kids that are like one girl 2 years ago, Lyco Areola, 13 years old, was the first person, youngest person ever in Las Vegas to shoot 90 bullseyes in a row. A bullseye is 1 inch in diameter at 20 yards. And she went on to win Vegas and then went back again at age 14 and did it again.
Oh my goodness!
Not to be outdone by the men. A 16-year-old boy did the same thing the same year.
Wow, that is crazy. Okay, we got to pause right there. When a little over, we'll come right back with segment 2. We're going to talk more with Coach Ray.
Did you know that you can bring the values, lessons, and mindsets Coach Seth discusses on the 5-Star Life podcast to your local community? Schools are searching for programs and content that work. Just a simple introduction to your teacher or principal could be a game changer in your community. Inquire at 5starlife.org and someone from our team will be in touch.
Welcome back to the 5-Star Life Show. I'm your host, Coach Seth, and I'm joined in studio with expert trainer and senior archery coach for 5-Star Life, Ray Kendall. Ray, welcome back.
Thanks.
So, we're having this conversation. I had to cut you off a little bit in the last segment, but you were talking about this 13-year-old girl who won it all.
Yes.
At nationals back-to-back years.
Yes.
And then a boy who did the same thing.
This is the Las Vegas tournament, one of the biggest tournaments there are. And actually, both of them did well in Lancaster, which is happening this weekend, actually. Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and then next week it'll be Las Vegas again. So I'm sure both of these individuals will make the podium because they're that good.
So, one of the things that we're excited to do is not just offer archery as this exposure event for kids, but to give them now a path where they can pursue it. So I'm super excited about this advanced archery course you're going to be offering. How many weeks or how many sessions is it?
It's going to be 8 or 9 sessions.
Okay.
And we're going to do it 2 times, one starting late March and then the other one starting in June. And then beyond that, we're going to simulate a team, try to put a team together.
So these 2 courses are really the feeder program
Yes.
for the 5-Star Life archery team that will start the end of the summer, beginning of the fall.
That's correct.
Oh man, that is so exciting. So, for those parents and grandparents and community members out there, you have kids who are sitting on the couch, or maybe they don't have a job and they don't know what they like to do. Like they have no purpose, they have no skills, and they're just struggling. That is heartbreaking to me, and it's heartbreaking to you. This is where I really encourage you to sign them up for this course. And one of the things I love to say is, and I heard this from a friend of mine, said, competence creates confidence.
Absolutely.
And archery is one of those things. I mean, you taught my wife how to shoot, and she loves, we don't shoot much, but she loves it. And Ray is so good at this that kids who are struggling with confidence or to find their purpose, this is an awesome, easy way for them to get involved with something where they're going to get expert coaching, but they're going to gain confidence. And that confidence will bleed over to the rest of their life. We've watched this happen in other programs for years. So, and who knows, maybe your grandson, granddaughter, son, neighborhood kid, who knows, maybe they're going to be like the next person in the Junior Olympics or in the Olympics for the U.S. for USA Archery. That'd be fun.
Well, one of the things I always say about archery, it's a great leveler of humanity, and it doesn't matter how big and strong you are or how tiny you are. You get a bow that's fitted to you, and archery is probably one of the most personalized sports there are out there, and you get a person equipped with the right type of equipment, and then the sky's the limit, and it could go anywhere. And so that is really what I love to see.
Mm-hmm. And so Ray also, so he has experience with our curriculum, and he just has a heart for kids. So it's archery focused, but all of our values and DNA is embedded into the program too. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Ray, when you think about some of the struggles, I mean, you stay up to speed on the news and politics and everything that's happening in the world. You think about the importance of finding their skills or finding their niche. Archery seems to be this thing that's just this thing that nobody thinks about. And with this program, is there a component where they're being prepared? I mean, can they take this USA Archery program and start to hunt and do other things with this, or is this just about competition?
Oh, it's the program I'm leaning toward is the S3DA, which encompasses all of that. It encompasses indoor and outdoor archery, and it teaches ethical hunting practices, and also within that program there is a pathway for scholarships. There is a friend of mine who's got a program north of us in Grand Rapids, and she started her team in 2019. Last year, they in the state of Michigan, they took all 4 categories, first place.
So in 5 years or 4.5 years, yeah,
they were, and the thing about, you watch kids grow, and archery creates an ordered mind. And that translates into everything in life. I mean, and it dovetails perfectly with our core values, 5-star. And I think about, one situation where there's a tournament going on, and there's one last kid to shoot one last arrow, and everybody in the place is watching that person shoot that last arrow, and the internal strife that goes on at that moment. I've been there. When everyone's watching you, and if you do things as you were taught, with an ordered mind, all that extraneous stuff is oblivious, and you just deliver that arrow the way it's supposed to be delivered every single time.
You talk about an ordered mind. How does that relate to life for kids?
It's the foundation for everything. I mean, if you do things consistently. Get out of bed in the morning, make your bed, brush your teeth, comb your hair, have done your homework the night before, plan your steps for the day, just like you plan your steps for every segment of archery. Every step of the shot sequence is planned and ordered and predictable.
So it's like this, it's a form of discipline where they're developing a process for how to succeed.
Yes.
That translates across everything.
Everything, yes.
Like, how am I going about this project at school? How am I going about this project at home? Like, all of these principles are the things that seem to be so lacking in society.
Well, the other thing is that, I was involved with a NASP program a few years ago, and actually I was invited to be one of the judges at arguably the biggest tournament in the world, is Louisville, Kentucky, and there were 14,000 kids at this tournament.
Holy cow.
There were 800 arrows in the air at any given time. And the thing that I took away from it the most was how polite and kind every one of those kids were that I interacted with. They actually came up to me and thanked me for judging them during this tournament. Where do you get that? That's
cool. I love that. Is there a kind of a network in archery and camaraderie? Is it relational? like a lot of other sports?
It's a small circle. I mean, every local tournament that I go to around here, I bump into the same people all the time, and even the bigger tournaments like Lancaster. And I haven't been to Vegas yet; it's on my bucket list. But I want to go there and compete as well. But you see the same face all the time. And the beauty of archery is that I just went to a tournament, a world bow hunting tournament in June in West Virginia, and I'm standing next to 3 pros on the line practicing. It's like, where do you get, if you're a golfer, do you stand next to Tiger Woods? How often do you get to do that?
Yeah.
And I actually had this, at this one event, they had, it was 200 of us got to shoot this particular event, and I was standing right next to a pro, and we had to hit this dot from unknown yardage, and the closest, if you hit the dot, you stayed in, and if you didn't hit it, you were a sudden death overtime. He missed his the first time, I missed mine the first time. I talked to him later, and we were like a quarter of an inch apart from that particular arrow, and that was great. I mean, just getting to talk to people at that level is just incredible.
Mm-hmm. Any other things that I missed that we want to cover for people that are thinking about getting involved?
Well, I'd kind of like to go down the path of instructors, and there's guys and women out there that shoot archery all the time. I'd love to have them come and join us. I mean, I'm a level 2 certified coach with USA Archery, which means I can certify other coaches, level 1 coaches, and that would be great if you have a boy or girl that wants to participate in the program, and you're a parent and has some background. I'd love to have you come out. I'll train you, certify you, and welcome you aboard. So that's what I would like to do. No, absolutely. Come join Ray and be a part of this archery program, as this is a feeder program. This spring and summer will be kind of the feeder program. That includes archery instructors. Oh, sure. Absolutely. Let's bring as many people together, because this is going to be a growing program. This is going to be a thing that really helps kids come alive and develop some tools and skills. So Coach Ray, thank you so much for taking time before you're going to be traveling out of town. You going to be any shooting when you're traveling? Well, yes, I'm going to Hawaii, and they have the island of Molokai there, and they have an overabundance of axis deer. So I'm going to try my hand at that. Awesome, good. Thanks again for joining us. Well, thank you, sir.
Five Star Life is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to changing the face of culture by changing kids' mindsets. Since 2005, we've impacted hundreds of thousands of lives thanks to the generous support of individuals, small businesses, corporations, and foundations. Are you interested in helping Five Star Life grow into all 50 states? With your donation or introduction, you can help bring Five Star Life to your community, school, and state. Go to fivestarlife.org and send us an email today. That's FIVESTARLIFE.org.
Welcome back to the 5 Star Life Show. I'm your host, Coach Seth. And for this segment, we have our special guest that joins us quite frequently, our Director of 5 Star Basketball Operations, Coach Bray Beatles.
Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for coming on.
Always excited to be here.
We just had a couple great segments with Ray Kendall, who is an archery expert. I mean, the guy can flat out shoot. I watched him hit a balloon from 100-some yards away. It was insane. So he's launching a brand new, we're calling it Accelerated Archery, Advanced Archery, and it's like an 8-week program for kids who come out and they like to shoot, and they want to really learn how to do it at a higher level. And so we're going to do 2 of these courses, one in the spring, one in the summer, and that's going to be kind of like our feeder program, almost like for basketball, Youth Development League. Yep. That's going to prepare them for 5 Star Life Archery team. Wow. That will start in the fall.
That's awesome.
So it's going to be fun. So we're going to have travel archery.
How does that work?
So literally, they will train under one of the country's best archery trainers, Ray Kendall, and they will prepare, train, and then they'll start competing.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so they'll compete locally, and then they'll very likely, if they qualify, they'll qualify for a state event and possibly go to a national event. And some of these kids eventually, just like they do with the Gauntlet, they'll get college scholarships.
Wow. So is this team-based or team and individual?
Individual and team, yeah.
So it's kind of like wrestling?
That's a good question for Ray. I think wrestling with a bow and an arrow, that would be even more interesting. I don't think that sport exists.
Making our own stuff up here.
If you just tuned in, go to 5starlife.org to learn more about the mission of 5 Star Life. We're on this laser-focused mission to change the face of culture, of education, of sports, and we do that by focusing on the number one thing you have to target according to research, and that's our operating system, our mindset, and it's working, it's having success. You can learn more at 5starlife.org. You can also listen to the show anywhere podcasts are played. You can also watch us on YouTube at the 5 Star Life Show. Please like this, subscribe to it, and share this. So we just recorded early today a new lesson for kids. Tens of thousands of kids will go through this lesson, and we're talking about really teaching kids how to break through in leadership. And leadership, our definition of leadership is so simple. There's so many definitions of what leadership is, but we define leadership as influence. Influence is leadership. Leadership is influence. And every single person is a leader because everybody has influence. And the number one person that we can influence or should influence is ourselves. So we're starting this series just talking about how do you lead and influence yourselves. In today's lesson, we talked about, like, if I'm the number one influence or leader of my life, it's really important that I start to pay attention to who and what influences me. And, every one and everything has an agenda. There's nothing that's neutral. There's not a person that you meet. There's not a book you read. There's not a podcast you listen to. There's not a song, a news station, or a movie that is neutral. Everything has an agenda. I'm not saying it's good or bad. Everything has an agenda. And so in this lesson, we talk about these 4 different areas of influence that we have to start to think about taking responsibility to be the gatekeeper of saying, I'm not letting this influence me. I'm not letting this in. I'm going to start filtering what I allow to influence me. And the first category is just people. Bray, have you ever had to filter out people from decision-making, from choices, from life as a kid, as an adult?
Yeah, no question. No question. I mean, that's part of Kirby Smart had the head football coach at Georgia had an amazing quote in a press conference once about the cost of leadership. That's kind of, I think these 4 things you're going to mention probably are the cost of leadership, right? Like what you have to pay to be a leader. You have to do sacrifice in this area, give this up, filter yourself from these people, whatever, these habits, whatever that is. I thought that was super interesting, and it's something that I really was inspired when I heard it. But absolutely, I have to filter out people, and from, you can't make every decision with the same circle of people necessarily, right? You have to reach out to people with expertise and people that you trust.
I always told kids this for years. I heard this, I thought it was brilliant, so I stole it. But I always tell kids, like, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And Jim Rohn, the author, lecturer, and leadership guru, says, like, you and I are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And so you think about the people we interact with, whether it's family or friends or peers or coworkers or whatever, the people that we are consistently around influence us. So it's why we see, kids who, little kids, they don't cuss, but when they start surrounding themselves with their kids, they start cussing, just like that. Why? That's influence. Mm-hmm. And so for us to be vigilant about being the gatekeepers of, because often we don't pay attention to the influence of people around us. Like, if you hang out with people that are doing certain things, like working out, there's a better chance you'll work out. If you hang out with people that, like football, you'll probably start liking football just by default.
You're a product of your environment.
Yes. And so it becomes this issue of looking at who are those influencers, and are they, I'm not saying they're good or bad, but are they helping me? Are they influencing me in a positive way or in a negative way? And we all have people that come into our lives for seasons, and they might have more influence during one phase of our life than another phase of our life. And I have had to look at that, and not everybody's going to be a part of your journey forever at the same level. And that's okay.
Sure.
Especially if you're growing.
Yes,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, and it's one of those things where I think there's value in obviously surrounding yourself with people that are winners, and then you have to kind of see what losing looks like a little bit, right? To be, that's a reminder of why I don't do those things, right? I think that's crucial as well. And the biggest thing is everyone says they want to win. And by win, I mean like just be successful in life and everything, right? Like everyone says that, but not everyone necessarily does what it takes to do that. And they either haven't had the support system to guide them towards that, or they don't maybe have the internal drive to say, you know what, I'm going to go find a bunch of winners and start doing what they do,
Well, and sometimes, what happens is people in our lives, as we are on this growth track and we're going somewhere, people can all of a sudden, the people that their agenda maybe was really good, it seemed to be like they were loving, they were supporting, but we get to a certain point where all of a sudden they don't like the growth in our life. They don't like where we're going. So then what they do is they say, I want to get back to the way it was. And if we're not careful, we will let someone else hold us back and influence us from where we're going. This can happen in a good way or a bad way. And so this idea of like being the gatekeeper, Coach Seth, you saying like, that's not very empathetic. That's not very compassionate. That's not being a nice person. That's not 5-star. And I would say you have to have balance, because the reality is there are people that have their own agenda. And they were very supportive until it got to a certain point where maybe what you're doing is no longer serving their purposes, that now it starts to be revealed. And so it's people who are compassionate and empathetic that don't balance it with wisdom and taking responsibility vigilant. It's those people that get taken advantage of by people who maybe even unknowingly are trying to manipulate them to keep them where they were. And those are hard things to discern.
Yes, and it's hard to know when you're in it.
Absolutely. And that's where, for me, I often bring mentors and people in, just say, hey, what do you think about this? Right? And it goes into, like, I channel my inner Tony Stark. And it's like, I love the visual of him in Iron Man, like looking at that, all the digital stuff is in front of him and he's spinning it and he's looking at it from every angle. That's critical thinking. Looking at it from, okay, I'm going to try to put myself in their shoes and look at their perspective. Then I'm going to go look at an outsider's perspective that's nothing to do with this. I'm going to look at my own perspective. I'm going to get maybe a mentor to give me a perspective. And it's amazing how if we will be, that's practicing vigilance to use critical thinking. If we do that, things come into view and they become clear. And that's where I've had to just say, you know what? I love this person, but I have to create some separation, some boundaries, or they're going to hijack my destiny. So, simple stuff. We're out of time for this segment. Go to 5-Star Life at the break. We'll be right back with more after this.
5-Star Life offers year-round programs for kids at our 350-acre training facility that we call Summit. These programs focus on 3 core components. First, each program includes lessons from our curriculum that targets kids' mindset. Secondly, each program teaches a skill like equine, archery, blacksmithing, basketball, fishing, boating, and many more. Thirdly, our programs connect kids to mentors we call coaches, who are trained to help kids live a 5-star life. Go to 5starlife.org to learn more or sign up your kids.
Welcome back to the 5-Star Life Show. I'm your host, Coach Seth, joined in studio with the one and only Bray Beals, our Director of Basketball Operations. Welcome back, Bray.
Thanks for having me.
Having a fun conversation. Just filmed a lesson for students about how to break through in their leadership. And the first several lessons we're unpacking just this idea that, leadership is influence, influence is leadership. The number one person we have to influence if we want to be a leader is ourselves. If we can't lead ourselves, it's like the blind leading the blind, right? Mm. And most people are not truly influencing themselves. If you didn't catch the first couple shows that we unpack some of this curriculum, go back to the archives, either on one of our podcasts or on YouTube channel at The 5-Star Life. Go back and watch the last previous shows because we unpacked kind of this principle of how do you make sure you're influencing yourself? Most people are not influencing themselves. And so this one is going to the next level, saying, okay, if you want to influence yourself, you better start to take ownership, to be vigilant about, being a gatekeeper to make sure you're controlling what influences you. And so the first category is like, you have to be the gatekeeper of the people in your life. You're the average of the 5 people you spend most time with. The second category is media. So every movie, every song, the news channels, the news feeds, all those things, none of them are neutral. They all have an agenda, and they are having massive influence on how people see the world, how they think about themselves, how they think about politics and religion and relationships, and how life should work. So this is a big category. And again, we're teaching kids that how do you become the gatekeeper in the world of media so that you don't just take everything. And I mean, one of the most popular words over the last 3-4 years is misinformation and fake news. Mm-hmm. And there is this incredible thing happening where people are starting to realize, this has been happening for years. People are now awakening to the fact that, so there's agendas out there? There's actually agendas. It's like, of course, they're trying to make, it's usually money, right?
Yeah.
Everyone wants to make money. Media is a great way to make money, or to get a vote, or to shape culture that will then make them money. So how is it that we teach kids to avoid becoming an NPC, a non-player character that's just a zombie, taking all the information that they're being fed and then just following the masses? It's like, no, kids want to be independent. They want to be critical. They want to be in control of their life. But most of them aren't. They're just following the latest celebrity. They're following the latest movie hit. They're just following the masses. So we're teaching them, hold on. Do you know how to look for the hidden agendas in movies, in music, in pop culture? And are you aware of the influence that has on the way you think? This is a powerful principle.
I got my wheels spinning on that one. That's when you really sit deep down and think about it. I mean, holy cow.
There's a lot to that. And there's a social media is another part of it. That's kind of the third area. But I always tell kids, like, really guard what you watch. And I tell even young kids, we have a conscience and we have intuition. When you watch something, whether it's a movie or listen to music, when there's something that's not good, if we can just tune in to our intuition and our conscience, there is something saying, there's something unsettling about what they're saying or what I'm watching. Like, I probably shouldn't be watching this. I'm just talking about just pure stuff that's not good.
Yeah.
It's so important to be the gatekeeper because all that stuff pollutes our soul. It goes into us.
It all counts.
It all counts.
Yeah.
It changes the way we look at people, the way we think. The second category the third category of influence is social media. I separate media from social media because they're like different animals. And social media is becoming a major player. I mean, it's taking over media, honestly, right? I mean, people are tuning out of like mainstream media.
Totally.
And they're going to social media to be influenced. This is a big deal.
Podcasts, massive. I mean, podcasts is like the true free form media, if you will, at this point. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you want information that the general media will not discuss, a lot of that is done unfiltered via podcast, app or YouTube shows, those types of things.
Yeah, so it's incredible. So there's a quick clip that I want to show everybody about. It's a short from YouTube about social media. Check this out.
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, these are weaponized. You have social statisticians and scientists and researchers and people in lab coats, literally best minds of our generation, figuring out how to addict you to the news.
Yes.
And if you fall for it, if you get addicted, your brain will get destroyed. And I think this is the modern struggle. Look at how it happens. Social media, they've massaged all the mechanisms to addict you, like a Skinner's pigeon or a rat. Video games, another way to addict people. So you have entire large factories of people that are working to addict you to these things, and you stand alone. So the modern struggle as an individual is learning how to resist these things in the first place, drawing your own boundaries, and there's no one there to help you.
What do you think about that clip?
It's really, when you sit down and think about it and listen to it, in that, you know, you totally I totally was reminded of several times of myself of just getting caught in the rabbit hole of Instagram Reels or TikTok, and it's just like, wow, is that where I'm getting a lot of my information? And it's like, without really even realizing it, yeah, it is. You know, it's powerful. It's super interesting. Makes you really think about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, he who controls information controls knowledge, controls the world, controls power.
Yeah.
And so it's just, again, teaching kids and having this conversation here, it's just making sure we take personal responsibility to be vigilant about being the gatekeepers in our life and realizing we are influenced by so many different things around us. And social media, it influences how much time we have in the day. I mean, how often do we get robbed of a day because we go there to check a message? I do this. This happens to me. The algorithms work. They're powerful. I get a notification that I have a message on Instagram, and I click it, but something else distracts me, and all of a sudden I get off 15 minutes later, haven't even looked at my message. How often does that happen? It's wild.
Yeah.
Like, forget about the quality of the content or the misinformation or the agendas or the good or the bad of it. Just think about it from a time perspective, the influence of time. Now you get into like what messages it's sending. That's powerful. We got producer Arnold back here too. You're mic'd up. You got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. And at the end of the day, it's not a neutral playing field. You know, you're either like, everybody is a leader because everybody has influence, right? If you're not leading yourself, then by default, guaranteed something else is leading you and influencing you. And one of the things I love about today's lesson is we're teaching kids like, hey, you don't have to be subject to everybody else's agenda. You can shape the life that you want by taking ownership, by taking responsibility for the trajectory of your life. And so, yeah, like the clip said, in many ways we stand alone against all these forces that are kind of pointed at us with their own agendas. But you don't have to be a helpless victim. And that's one of the things that I love about what 5 Star is doing, what we're teaching our kids. You know, Bray is the director of 5 Star basketball. You know, not only is he teaching kids how to be winners on the court, he's sharing these exact same principles with with his athletes as well, and setting them up for success in all kinds of ways.
Super powerful. And as we wrap this up, just want to encourage you, that's what we're teaching kids. You are not powerless. You can take responsibility to be vigilant, to be the gatekeeper in all of these areas that influence us. We are out of time. Thanks for tuning in. Watch us next week. Like this, subscribe to this, share this.
At 5 Star Life, we are changing the face of culture through education and sports by changing the most important piece of a human being's life, their mindset. If you are interested in being a part of our journey, please visit 5starlife.org for more information on volunteer and donation opportunities.